What is up, y'all? Welcome to the Culture Changers Podcast, episode 3. Thank you for tuning into episode 1 and episode 2. I hope you're able to get a whole bunch of knowledge from guys like Antonio, guys like Fabian. They've had some amazing journeys, and I'm very proud of the product, I guess the product or the service that they produced on those podcasts, because the most beautiful thing about it is that they consider themselves as camera shy, or they consider themselves as someone who was not good on camera, or it's just way out of their comfort zone, right? So them being able to go on camera, get into that flow, talk about what they know, is one of the most beautiful things ever. And now, episode 3, we got Josh Lerma here. I'm very, very excited for him to talk about what he's known. I've been working with him since last November. He has made a whole bunch of progress. You guys have seen his progress pictures, and he has a whole lot of beautiful, beautiful lessons to share. So that being said, again, I want to say thank you for tuning in. I hope that episode 1 and episode 2 was able to give you a lot of gold nuggets, a lot of good information. And I know episode 3 will be just the same, with some different questions, a different perspective, and a different journey. And that's the beautiful thing about this. One of your fellow colleagues, 18 to 22 years old, just sharing what he knows. So with that being said, Josh, I just want you real quick to tell us a little bit about yourself, more specifically, what you do, where you stay, and let's get this thing going.
Nerves going a little bit, but we'll get into it.
Yes,
all right, my name's Josh Lerma. I'm 19 years old. Self-proclaimed entrepreneur. I run my own business, which is auto, aircraft, and boat detailing service, and a little bit of stock trading on the side, but that's something to get into later on.
Yes, sir. So I guess the first question I want to talk about, I think the reason I'm really excited to talk to you especially is that before we started working together, we obviously went to high school together, but we didn't really talk. We obviously probably had some dap-ups here and there, right? Mm-hmm. But I wanted you to talk about what made you commit to working on yourself in the first place, because we had our first conversation talking about personal development, talking about how you wanted to better yourself last November. And I want you to really talk about what made you be like, I'm going to go all in,
Yeah, so I'm sure it's probably the same, just like as everybody. You go on Instagram Reels, everybody's stuck with like short form content. Going on Reels, seeing the motivational shit, and then slowly getting into like reading, and then also podcast interviews like that. So, how do I explain it? So basically, I had a few wake-up calls. It was mainly David Goggins. I read his book, and it was just like that wake-up call for me I needed. Because at first, I knew that I was kind of on the right track. I left school. Once COVID happened, I started with online schooling. I was kind of slacking on it. It took me a while. And then at some point, I got into Goggins, and I just grinded out school. Mm-hmm. I graduated at 16 years old, and I just had a vision. At first, I didn't know really what I wanted to do. And then out of nowhere, I started watching videos, YouTube detailing. And so I went all in on myself. I was like, fuck it. If I'm not going to do it, no one else is going to do the work for me. Yeah. So I was kind of risky. I was like, fuck it, I'm going to buy a van. I saw everyone else getting nice-ass cars, dirt bikes, or motorcycles, whatever they wanted. I was like, I'm going to buy a van. Mm-hmm. I bought the damn van. I was working at Carl's Jr. for a while, just building up clientele, building up like money just so I could get better equipment. And then I quit Carl's Jr., got a job with a boat company, and then that started me off better clientele, more like higher end jobs. And ever since then, beginning of this year, I've been fully on my own. No companies, no nothing. Full self-proprietor, and I've been loving it ever since.
Nice, bro. Nice. Definitely your journey. I mean, like I said, because I remember not seeing you senior year. Obviously, now you're talking about it now, that you just went all in on online school. You finished early, and then you kind of wanted to start building your vision, start building your own business, right? Yeah. And you mentioned that the one lesson for you was like, no one's going to do it for me. That was the big thing for you. I want you to kind of talk about that a little bit, right? Talk about this, no one's going to do it for me. Do you say that because you used to think you had that mindset in the past, like maybe someone's going to come and save me? Is that the mindset you used to have, or what exactly was it for you?
Yeah, so I kind of feel like everybody's kind of on that path. Like you ask someone, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they're like, I want to be successful. I want to be rich. And then you ask them, how do you want to do that? And they're like, I'll just save my money, I'll invest, but no one really has a plan. So I realized I needed a set plan. And so set plan, you need to start with tiny goals. You keep fucking breaking those goals. Oh, am I allowed to cuss on this shit? My fault. You keep breaking them damn goals, and then your goals get bigger and bigger. And you keep aiming for higher shit, and soon you'll notice everything starts falling into place. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was kind of like I knew I was working hard when I first started the business, but after joining Culture Changes with this fucker, I realized I'm not working as hard as I can. And so, yeah, just surrounding myself with better people. A big thing for me is community, because you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So I started spending my time with crazy people like these guys who outwork everybody. And I just realized that I'm not living up to my full potential. And that scared me, especially on Goggins' book. He said his biggest fear was that he's not going to live up to his full potential. And for me, it kind of clicked for me too that I got to, because I'm not going to do any, or if I don't do the work, no one else is going to do it for me. Like, as much as people around you care about you, they all want the best for you, no one's going to be there right next to you busting ass with you for the rest of your life. So I realized I had to start doing this shit on my own. It took a while for it to click, and then, like, just recently, joining the program with this fucker, I was like, all right, it's time to fucking work. And been working my ass off ever since. And you start to notice, like, the more vices and shit you put down that you know you should, like, we all know deep down what's holding us back. Once you start cutting that shit out, life gets so much better. Call it karma, call it faith, call it God, whatever you want to believe in. But your life, once you start putting down the shit you know you should put down, your life just gets so much better.
Yeah, one thing, because I remember probably like about a month of us working together. You had one instance over the weekend where you said you slipped. You said that you slipped, and you basically broke it down to me like, I can't. You were surprised on how bad you felt about it, right? I'm pretty sure you just didn't know that after you committed to working on yourself, and then you went back to that old way, you instantly felt regret. And that's just the law of exposure in full effect, right? Once you've been exposed, you can't be unexposed. And I think that's the beautiful part about how you mentioned, you're the sum of the 5 people that you hang around with. When you hang around great people who are trying to work really hard and trying to build something, you've now been exposed to this idea of building something. And I noticed that ever since you were exposed to it, you just started to raise your standards more and more and more and more and more. And to this day, we just talked about, we're going to dig into that Confucius quote in a bit, but how even to this day, 4 months in, every week you are finding new ways to raise your standards. And that was the next thing I wanted to talk about, which was, how would you say your standards were before? Like, let's just talk about like in last summer, August or so, what were your standards then compared to what are your standards now? In specific, what are the biggest things that you've changed in your daily life?
For me, one of the biggest things I had to start holding was my own word. Because, like, back then, if we're going back to last summer, I was fucking off. I was smoking a shit ton of weed throughout the whole day, drinking, like, not really giving a fuck about my future. And then this is what we'll bring in the Confucius quote. It was, every person lives 2 lives. Your second life begins when you only have one. When you realize you only have one. And I've always listened to the quote. I've heard it before, but I never really like sat down and understood it. And so just recently, honestly, I reheard it again probably last week, and I just sat down, reflected on it, and I finally understand it now. Because all of us, let's just go back to high school. High school, we're all drinking, we're all smoking, we're all living like degenerates, but that's high school. It's our community, the ones around us. So everyone around us is on the same shit, so we don't really feel like it's a bad thing. And so, like, you start hanging around with other people, you start realizing that maybe I should be on a better path. And so I started living this second life. I didn't want to do the drinking. I didn't want to smoke all day, just throw my life away. So I'm on life number 2 now, and it's a way better experience. You're living in a high frequency environment. And so anytime, like we were saying, you get into those bad frequency environments with either community or just bad habits, you get that inner sense that you're fucking up and you have to change. And so that changed.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you there that second life starts when you've been exposed to something better and you realize that you can be more. And there's this idea that you talked about with Goggins where he was like, my biggest fear is not living up to my full potential. And I like the idea that Frisella says, which is that everyone has a different like definition for success. But the way that Frisella defines it and the way that I picked up this definition was that success is just being on the constant pursuit of your highest potential. Because what else is, you can't put an end goal on success. Like there's no monetary level that's success. There's no fame that's success. No, it's just the constant pursuit at achieving your highest potential, because that's when you're in the highest frequency. Yep. But I want you to tell the audience really that ever since you started living, we can call it that second life, what are the habits that this individual has, this new Josh Lerma, this 10.0 Josh Lerma? What are the habits that you've been able to pick up that you think other people listening or watching should start to pick up or should try to pick up, and you think it'll benefit their life? And it's because it's benefited yours.
Like the main thing I would say is just hold your word, because holding your word, it leads into everything else. If you hold your word to yourself, that makes you a more disciplined individual. If you hold your word to other people, they're going to see you as a more disciplined individual. And in that case, if they see you're consistent with it, you're there every day showing up, then it's going to rub off on them. And like some people, you'll notice you'll get a little bit of backlash from, you don't want to do stuff that other people are doing no more. They're going to be like, why? We've always done it. And they start seeing you doing better than them. As much as people don't want to admit it, if you're doing way better than someone that's on a bad path, they hate that shit. And so you start doing way better in life, and you start realizing that this is that one life you have, so you gotta fucking live it to your fullest potential. And that's where gratitude comes in. You wake up every damn day thankful for even just waking up, because so many people, they'll go to sleep, never wake up again, or it's just a fucked up life. And we're blessed here in America. I gotta say, I fucking love this country. Not the greatest love for the government, but I fucking love this country. The people in it, that's what makes the country.
Exactly. Absolutely, bro. And one thing that we talk about is unity a lot. And community and unity, right? It's the sense that the reason that we work hard for each other the way that we do, the reason that we show up to the Sunday workouts the way that we do, is because that is what builds that level of respect. Like, I know I'm going to be there. I know that you're going to be there. You know that I'm going to be there. And it's just, that idea of, because I think what a lot of especially young men lack, I really do believe this. So I think a lot of young men lack is having someone that they can count on. And the reason that they don't have someone they can count on is, first of all, they can't count on themselves. So don't expect to be able to have a real brother or anything if you can't even count on yourself, because no one's going to be able to count on you. But as a result, when they have something that they're struggling with, when they have something that they need advice on, an answer on, they don't know who to turn to, right? And I mean, maybe circa a couple years ago, I was that way as well. But I think one of the greatest examples for me to prove that I have that brotherhood now is, what happened to me in the beginning of February when I hopped on that call on that Monday night and really told you guys what was going on with me. And the way that everyone came together in that moment was very, very special. And it's something that I'm never going to forget. And I don't think anyone will forget, right? So it's that sense of unity. And I guess, you mentioned the love for America, the love for community, the love for just wanting to really pursue your highest potential. But I want you to talk about, in your personal experience, on those days that you don't want to get up. Because I know there's some days where you admit that sometimes you hit snooze, but you also, there's a lot of nights where you don't get that much sleep, right? Yeah. So on those nights that you don't get that much sleep, or on those days especially where it's very hard, very tiring, what's your why? Like what wakes you up in the morning? What's the thing that gets you out of bed to go to work, to go to the gym, to hit your macros? What's the why?
For me, I think the why is very important. You need to understand the why in everything you do. For me, it's the betterment of other people. Like it sounds stupid, but for me to wake up every day and work my damn hardest, that means my parents aren't gonna have to work, my family isn't gonna have to work, but that's a long way down the road. But my end goal is I want to retire my parents. Just like I'm sure everyone's goal is, I want to retire my parents. I don't want them to stress no more, because they worked their ass off to get me to this point. If we're going even deeper, my ancestors, you need thousands of ancestors just for you to be here right now. And for you to be here right now, ungrateful for what you have, for even living every day, it's selfish. It's selfish as fuck. So for me, my why is just the betterment of other people. Like, it feels fucking good too, because you start hitting your goals that you've been wanting to hit, and it feels good because it's gonna rub off on everyone else. And we talk about it all the time. Like, our main thing is we want to inspire, and in that way you have to show up for yourself as well as you show up for everybody else. So 100%. My why is everybody else. For you guys, I show up for y'all.
Absolutely, bro. And one thing that I've noticed with you is your level of accountability has just gotten stronger and stronger and stronger. And now when you have any little slip up, you'll say, I fucked up. There's no excuses. I fucked up. I need to be better here. I need to be better there. It's all accountability, 100% accountability. Yep. So I want you to talk about, why is accountability so important to you? Like, where has it benefited you in your life, right? Because I can think of a time in my life where, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when something happened to me or when I messed up, I was looking to point the finger. And I can't even imagine how many people are watching who look to point the finger, right? And I'm guessing, dude, I think all of us, there's probably times in your life where you look to point the finger instead of taking accountability for things. Always. So I want you to talk about why you think it's important to take accountability and how you've seen it benefit you the most in your life.
So I personally think that you should be accountable for everything in your life. Everything, good, bad, whatever it is, take accountability. Even if it's supposedly not your fault, reflect on everything. I've been big on reflecting. And so let's say a good situation happens, reflect on what you did right in that situation and what you could still do better next time. If it's a bad situation, what did you fuck up and what can you fix next time? Because that's where we learn the most, is when you reflect. You sit back, you reflect, what can I do better than the next time? And what should I stop doing? And I think deep down, if you actually listen to yourself, your inner conscience, you know what the fuck you're doing wrong. You know what the fuck you're doing right. Keep going right, and all the vices, all the shit that's holding you back, you gotta cut it out. And the more you cut shit out, the more you notice that life is just so much fucking better.
And what would you say are some examples of some things that you had to take some like extreme accountability for?
Not working hard enough. Like I would be working. I would say I'd work my ass off. It would be an 8-hour shift, and then I'd get home. I'd do whatever the fuck, like watch short videos, watch YouTube, Netflix, movies, do whatever the hell for the rest of the day, and then realize I'm not working hard enough. So take accountability, because like going back to what we said earlier, no one's gonna do the work for you. So accountability from my own actions, and yeah, it rubs off on everything else.
100%. And what would you say is working hard enough for you now, with like, and this is a standard, right? Because what you say right now, someone else could be like, that's extreme. You know, someone else could say that or think that. So I want you to think about, you know, and obviously this answer might not be for everybody. A lot of people, I don't know how much hours you put in exactly, but I want you to talk about what is working hard enough for you. Like what makes, when you lay your head at night on the pillow and you're like, I did it today, what is that for you?
Basically, so with the culture changes, we have a whole habit list. So you want to fill out that habit list. It's full of good habits. Wake up early, read a book, do productive shit all day. And that, honestly, no one's perfect. I'm always gonna fucking have a little vice here and there, but the whole point is to try to cut it out as much as possible. So a perfect day for me, you wake up early. So I'm doing the trading, so I'll trade in the morning, and I'll still go to work and bust ass all day. Once you get home from work, you're hitting the gym, which is still productive. So basically just staying productive all day. After the gym, you hit your macros, you do all the eating you need to do, you just stay productive all day. But we're all guilty. Like, people go home, they'll look forward to just resting, to watching a movie, to just doing something that isn't productive. But when you live a life that's just fully productive, you're working 12, 16, 18, 20-hour shifts if you're really at it. But I realize, just talking to fuckers like these, bro, if you think you're working hard, you're never working hard enough. Because there's always someone outside working way harder than you. So you got to work hard. And a biggest thing I've been doing is work hard so you're outworking the person you were yesterday. Every single day. Because if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And that's the bottom line of it. So just self-betterment, staying productive, and trying to waste as least amount of time as possible. Because one big thing I hear all the time is, oh, I don't have enough time for this. I'm like, that is bullshit. Everybody has enough time. You got to make the time for it. Because I bet you, if you really dug down into your 24-hour day, you're only working 6 to 8 hours a day. And the people that are working the 8 to 10 are like, oh, I'm busting ass all fucking day. That's not all day. There's 24 hours in a day. So you gotta be willing to sit down and really bust some ass. And it's doing the work you don't want to do. Because we all know this shit fucking sucks. No one wants to sit down at a desk or do whatever the hell for a good 10, 12 hours straight. But that's... all the good shit is in the work you don't want to do. And that's what I've been learning.
Yeah, so I want to build on one thing that you said and then ask you a question about your journey. Is that something that you said is you mentioned it in the beginning of the podcast too, but you talked about this idea of like all the things that you have to eliminate, you know, the things that you have to subtract from your life. And one thing that resonates with me and a lesson that I try and like really, really think about often is that success is subtractive. It's not about the things that you add to your life. It's about the things that you're going to be able to subtract. Because someone could add the gym to their life, but not subtract the bad eating. It just cancels it out, right? Yeah. Someone could add, maybe reading 10 pages, which I think that's always a good thing. But then on the back end, they can be watching bullshit YouTube videos or bullshit TV reality shows or something that just is completely, they can learn a great lesson from a book and then completely conform to the lesson that like the YouTube or the TV show is trying to give them, right? Yeah. And so there's all these things that you have to be willing. Yes, of course, you are going to add positive habits, but it's so much more important to eliminate the negative ones. And I want everyone who's watching or listening to think about what are the things that you can eliminate to be a net positive in your life. Like for me, it was sleeping in. I eliminated sleeping in because sleeping in, whenever I slept in, I noticed that my days were so much worse. So I said, I have to eliminate the snooze button. Boom. That was I know that's one for you as well, that even though it's hard to do it perfectly every single day, you make a very intentional effort to do so. Right. Yep. So I really want people to make sure that they understand that I didn't want that to go over their head, because you mentioned it. That's what are the things that you're going to subtract or eliminate? Mm-hmm. And we have to understand that if we're going to achieve anything, if we're going to be successful in anything, we have to be willing to subtract, and subtracting is very uncomfortable. And the reason that it's uncomfortable is because it's change. Because we could be, like I said, in high school, we're all drinking, we're all smoking. Not all of us, but I know I was, and I know you were too, right? So, and subtracting that out of your life is so hard, because most of the time your environment is going to be built around that. It's going to be built around other people who drink and smoke, other people who are not really too focused, whatever it may be. So if you decide to subtract drinking and smoking from your life, that means that you changed. And guess what? When you change, your environment changes. But the thing is that you have to change first, and then your environment changes. You can't really expect to be around all these positive people and then you change second. No, you attract the people based on who you are, right? Okay. But I want to talk about your entrepreneurship journey a little bit, because obviously, like I said, you're just getting started. You still got a long way to go. Yep. But I want you to talk about why you chose that route. Because dude, it's very hard. It's very hard. It's attractive for the lifestyle, but once people start it, they realize how hard it is, right? And they quit. So I want you to talk about why you chose that route. And I guess what do you think is the biggest lesson that you've learned so far, right? Yeah. And take your time to think about that.
So even as a kid, we never grew up with the most amount of money. Like, I was comfortable. My parents always did what they could for me, but I always knew that we weren't good out there, and we were always in debt. And so I never wanted to ask my parents for money. I've always hated that shit. So as a kid, it started elementary school. I'd start selling the dumbest shit. I would sell like little paper mache things. I would sell candy. I was selling Takis, and just always having a love for selling shit, because I'm making my own money. And so as I grew older, I always knew I wanted to start a business. And one day it was a neighbor right next to the door. He was like, "Hey, you want to wash my car?" This was before I bought the van or anything. I was maybe like 15, 16 years old. I knew nothing about detailing. Yeah. And so I bought maybe like $50, $60 worth of shit. I never even ended up detailing his car, which is the funniest part. And so I already had all the tools, so I was like, all right, I'll just start doing friends and family. Yeah. So I started doing that. I started watching more videos, because you can learn so much from the internet nowadays. People have no idea. You can learn everything on the internet. Yep. And so I started learning more and more, seeing how I could be more profitable, seeing how I could expand the business. And then, I started working Carl's Jr., saving up a shit ton of money, save up for the van. And basically when I bought the van, I was like, all right, I'm putting my entire bet on myself right now. Like, everything's going into this right now. So I bought the van, started busting ass, doing higher end details. Still wasn't fully there because I was still working for Carl's Jr. Quit Carl's Jr. because I knew I wanted to do it full time. And that's when I realized, damn, this shit's hard as fuck. Finding clientele, staying consistent, it was a pain in the ass. So I was doing as much work as I could. We all know that I was working 6 to 8 hours, maybe 10, 12 hours on the higher end. And I knew I wasn't working as hard as I could have. So I started working with the boat dude, started getting me better clientele, and then I start learning the business side of everything, as well as being more profitable with the business. And so recently, like basically November, it was when I decided to join Culture Changers. That's when I was like, all right. So the first time I bought the van, that's when I put my full bet on myself. And this was like a whole different, like I'm going all in. I'm putting everything on black. So I bought the van, or no, that was before. So I'm going full at it. I joined Culture Changers. I was broke as shit. I'm not gonna lie. Beginning of the year, like when I was first joining Culture Changers, I had maybe $300 to my name. Like lowest amount after I paid for the membership and everything, I had maybe $100.
Uh-huh.
So I put everything on myself, and I think everybody needs to do that at some point because some of the most advanced rewards that you get are from the biggest risk. And gamblers say it all the time, scared money don't make money. So if you really want to be successful in life, like from a monetary perspective, then sometimes you just got to go all in on something. And even if it doesn't work for you, it's the biggest fucking lesson you can learn because you learn way more from your mistakes than you do your successes. And if I was just to be infinitely profitable from, let's say trading, because trading can be considered gambling, then I would never learn from anything. And at some point, I would have blew up the whole account. And so you start learning. You learn a shit ton from your mistakes, and you learn, I don't have to do that shit again. And more than learning from your own mistakes is learning from other people's mistakes, which is why podcasts, interviews, and books are a big thing for me now. I still love music, but I cut it out so much just because I'd rather learn. And one thing about me, with my job, I'm blessed, so I could be in my own little world with my headphones, just busting ass, doing whatever, and I could learn. And I call it learn while you earn. So I'm learning, I'm getting knowledge while I'm still making money, busting ass.
Yeah.
So I love it.
Yeah, so first of all, that was very, very detailed. Thank you for that response. And I think we're going to be able to build on this conversation a lot with this idea that when you first went all in, so you went in all in twice on yourself.
Yeah, the first time
was at the van. The second time was about last November when you bought into developing yourself and you bought more into your business. I know you were making upgrades, hiring people. You're doing all these. You went all in, mentioning at one point you only had $100 to your name. You went to that point. Yeah. Now, I want you to really think about how you felt when you went all in. Meaning, dude, how much it could, whether it was fear. I mean,
fear.
Yeah, exactly, and because I can, trust me, I can 100% resonate with that and relate to that because I've taken a whole bunch of risks as well, and I know you have too. But I want you to talk about how you felt and also what you've learned.
Yeah, no, I was scared shitless. I ain't gonna lie, because once you take that entrepreneurial journey, you're not getting money from outside sources. You realize that this is everything. And if I'm slacking on this business, I'm not going to make money. I'm not going to be able to protect or provide for anyone I care about. So I went all in that second time. I was like, all right, it's time to bust ass. And so you start busting ass both physically and like monetary with the business. And everything just starts slowly falling into place. You cut out the vices that you know you should be cutting out. And it just gets better and better and better. Like, I'm eternally blessed. I just got to say it because I've been working my ass off and it's just keeps paying off and keeps paying off. Call it karma, faith, whatever you want to call it. But life just gets so much better when you actually decide to put the shit down that you know you should and just bust ass.
Yeah, bro, you're a living testament to that. And it's first of all, it's been awesome for me to see because literally since last November when we really started working together and obviously getting a lot closer and everything, you've been filling me in on what's been going on and I've seen all the growth and it's been just first of all a blessing for me to see, but also inspiring for me to see. And I know it's been very inspiring for everybody else to see as well. Even though, like you mentioned, you don't talk as much, but you're working very, very hard. But I want you to talk about, I think what a lot of people don't realize is that personal development is at the core of every success, like anything that you want to do in life, right? And you mentioned how, yes, it was very scary for you to go all in yourself, but ever since you have, especially ever since you've gone all in on working on yourself, dropping the vices, like committing to working out, committing to eating right, committing to reading, committed to personal development, self-investment, ever since you committed to that, it's just everything's falling in line slowly and slowly and slowly and slowly. Of course, we know it's all on God's timing, but it's really happening for you now because you're working super hard on yourself. And I don't want that to go, to just get blown over because I've always been one to believe that once you work on yourself, everything else falls in line, right? It starts with you though. But I want you to talk about how personal development has helped you in your journey. Like why, is it the accountability? Is it just the amount that you've been able to learn? Is it this idea of courage? What really is it for you? How has personal development helped your business?
For me, personal development's been everything. Like I said, I was broke as shit beginning of the year, like when I decided to go all in for that second time on my business. And just personal development, like it rubs off on everybody as well. Like everyone around you, they see you getting better and they're like, all right, I need to change. I got to cut this out. I got to cut that out. And once you see other people are actually getting inspired by that, it gives you no reason to stop. And you just keep going harder and harder and harder at this shit. And people see that, and it rubs off on everybody else. And I got to say, I'm inspired by you, brother. Like, you really got me going. And just the hype and seeing people show up every day, or not every day, but every Sunday, veterans, 6:45, y'all show up. Seeing people show up every day and just want to work on themselves and just want the better for themselves, it's so damn inspiring. So I feel like everybody needs that personal development journey. And like I said, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. So you got to start somewhere. And starting today is where to start.
Exactly, bro. First of all, I just want to say thank you for the fact that, you mentioned the work that I've done, but more importantly, the work that we've done as a group, trying to really bring people together on Sundays, being very selfless and pushing each other. And it's something that inspires me, man. Like how you mentioned, once other people start to count on you, first of all, that's when I believe that you become a man. Yep. But second of all, that's when you have no reason to stop, because you're not showing up for just yourself anymore. You're showing up for a purpose much bigger. Yep. And I've watched your purpose evolve, and your purpose is going to keep evolving. And I'm excited for when we hop on round 2 of this podcast, your purpose might just be way different. I mean, I don't think your purpose will necessarily be different, but maybe just the why is evolved even bigger. You know what I'm saying? And you're even more detailed on it. But one thing that I want to talk about is, we talk about a lot, me and you especially talk a lot about like how Americans, especially young men our age, are indoctrinated into this victim mentality, this the demasculization, the pointing the finger, entitlement. We're being indoctrinated to do so, right? Yeah. Now I want you to be completely honest and think about how you used to buy into these ideologies. Like, what did you used to fall for that you realize, like, oh shit, this is going to get me nowhere? Because let me give you an example. Off the top of my head, for me, it was the victim mentality, in the sense that when something didn't go my way, especially when it came to interpersonal relationship, I would always ask, like, why is this happening to me? Like, I did nothing wrong, right? Like, this is not how it's supposed to be. Like, why? And it was like I bought in, because I was always a nice kid in high school, and it was like this, I bought into like this, like the nice guy always finishes last type. I bought into that. I bought into that completely, which it didn't make me a mean guy per se, but I also kind of made me less of who I was for a good minute in high school, right? Mm-hmm. So I want you to talk about what do you think that you bought into, and when I think it's a complex question. I hope it made sense, but I think it can be interesting.
All right, I gotta think a little bit.
You're good.
All right, so if I had to say anything, I would say I bought into the whole, how do I explain it? It all started, so for me, it was with the first election. Like, we're talking Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, that 2016 vibe. I bought into Donald Trump's a racist. Like, if we're going political, okay, we're getting canceled with this one. All right, so when all that came out, my dad, he was a big Trump guy. And I sent him a clip. It was that one clip of, he was saying, it was all cut up, but he was basically saying, oh, Mexicans are drug dealers or rapists. They're doing this across the border. And so I sent that clip to my dad, and then he sent me the full link. He was like, watch the full video. So me being ignorant, I didn't want to watch the full video, because I was like, I already saw what I knew. So why would I need to take in the full perspective? Mm-hmm. And then I don't know what told me, but something told me just watch the full video. I sat down. It was a full speech, I think, at Virginia. It was maybe like an hour and a half, something like that. I watched the full thing, and he was just spitting facts. Like, mm-hmm. as much as I didn't want to say it, he was saying the truth. Mm-hmm. And he was saying basically that our world's on a fucked up pace, and if we stick to the pace, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse. And if we're going to the part of where he was calling if he was saying Mexicans, I watched the full part of that. He wasn't talking about Mexicans. He was talking about the cartel. And so I lined it up with the clips that I first saw, and then with the full video. And I was like, they're fucking lying to us. And then I started looking deeper and deeper into it. And I'm like, they're lying about everything. Uh-huh. And so we go into the conspiracy side of everything. The news is owned by 2 big companies. I don't know if you want to get, how hard you want to get canceled, but there's BlackRock and Vanguard. Yeah. They own basically everything in the world. If you follow the money, they own majority of percentage for every company in the world. And they control everything. They control even Fox News. Like, if you want to go conservative to liberal, they're owned by the same people. Mm-hmm. And so it's, what's the word? they divide us on purpose, if I'm being honest, because if we're divided between each other, then we're not going to fight the people higher up.
No.
And that's the whole thing. They want to demasculinize the men because weak men don't fight. And so you get the strong masculine men. They're the ones that start the revolutions. They're the ones that start basically the movements to change. And that's what they don't want no more. They don't want no more change. They don't want, they want us basically, Tate talks about all the time. It's the slave mind. Like, so slavery used to be a thing. I believe slavery is still a thing today, not in like the general aspect, but in this aspect. So before we used to work for them, and how do I explain it? Fuck. So we would work for them and they would just give us basically whatever. You could live on the land, you could do that. It wasn't as bad. Well, now I don't think it's as bad because now they do it and what they give us now is money. But we use all the money and all the money goes right back to them.
Yeah.
So now that they try to make it beneficial for us. So we'll give you this amount of money, but all money is basically the stored time and energy of other people. So they print money. Like money is just a number on the screen to them. So they don't really give a fuck. So they could just do whatever, make you do whatever you want for money. We need the money because we need that to live, and for them it's just numbers on the screen. So we're still slaves in that aspect, as they make us do whatever they want for money, and we need the money, so we have to do the work for them. And that's why for me it was a big thing being an entrepreneur. Like I know it's not going to be perfect. All my money still goes to them regardless, but I keep higher percentages. And people hate the rich so much because they make all this money, but they worked for it. Yeah, they worked for it. The 1% is the 1% for a reason. Yep. And they know something we don't, so that's why I had to look deeper. First, I had to figure out what money was. Like, it sounds dumb, but you look, what is money? How are the banks created? And, like, the history of the Federal Reserve and all that. And you start realizing money is fake. Like, it's stupid. Money is fake. It's a number. Like, all physical currency in the U.S. is, I think, only maybe 30%, 20%. The rest of it is just numbers on the screen. It's all just financial banks just getting debt from other people. They take the money, they take profit, and it's an endless cycle. They keep staying rich because they know how everything works. And that's why the gap between the upper class and the lower class keeps growing and growing and growing. The middle class isn't a thing no more. Like, as much as people want to say it, there's no such thing as a middle class. Well, there still is, but it's dwindling. It's going away. So it's either you're going to be the 1% or you're going to be the 99% that is reliant on the 1%. So for me, I wanted to join that 1%, but it's a pain in the ass because you got to bust ass for that shit. And even busting ass ain't enough sometimes. You just got to keep going. Consistency is everything.
Yeah, so there's a whole bunch to unpack there. There's a whole bunch to unpack there that I do want to unpack. I want to unpack some of it. The first one that I want to unpack, I'm gonna actually put a little note just so I don't forget. But the first one that I want to unpack is this idea that I think a lot of us fall guilty to, and it's that in the beginning, you mentioned 2016, the reason that short form clip, the reason that you got probably very excited when you saw it and were super excited to send it to your dad was because it reinforced your beliefs. And I think, and a lot of us fall guilty of that. Even whatever side you're on, whatever you believe in, if something reinforces your beliefs, you're automatically going to gravitate towards it. And that's where we have to watch out. All of us, every single one of us, I can be better here. You can be better here. Everyone listening can be better here. Where if there's something that reinforces your beliefs, you must take a step back and try and look at the full picture, try and look at both sides, try and understand, and then make your own judgment on what you truly think is right or wrong. Really, what you truly think is right or wrong. So that's something that I want to talk about first, is that we have to really watch out with what we buy into. I think that's the end all be all, is that we have to watch out what we buy into. The second thing is that how you mentioned that at the end of the day, a lot of the money that we make, and it's especially more prevalent as we get older. It's going to get more prevalent when we have our own houses and we have our own, every bill is our own, every grocery bill is our own, everything is our own. That's when it gets even more difficult when it comes to the taxes and everything and the money. And you mentioned how, I mean, the truth is that over 50% of our money will end up going to the government, and a lot of the things that we own, we don't own. But something that we do always own is our soul. Always. We always own our own soul. And the only way that you can actually take hold on that and really, really, really grasp onto that is, first of all, standing for what you believe in, having a backbone. But the only way that you can have that backbone is if you have a foundation within yourself, which we've been able to build with positive habits, positive relationships, just a positive mindset overall. Of course, we get negative sometimes. It's human nature. It's a reaction, right? It's life, exactly. But because we have faith, because we work very hard, because we've seen bigger and better things now, we always have that soul. So everyone listening, it's one thing that I want you to really grasp on and understand is that no matter how hard things are in your life and no matter what you go through, you will always have your own soul. And if you put that soul into a purpose that's bigger than yourself, you're always going to be okay. Always, man. And that's why I love how one of your answers was that your why is other people. It's other people. And I think all of our whys are other people. I truly believe that us, especially, me and you as young men, our purpose is to build the best version of ourselves and then provide and protect for other people. Yep. I genuinely believe that's our purpose, but I feel like I genuinely think that's every single man's purpose. Yep. I don't, and you can't, but even when you're lost, when you find it, that's going to be your end purpose. Yep. Maybe it's going to be, you're going to be a detailer. Maybe you're going to be a waitress. You're still serving other people, right? Maybe it's going to be, you sell cars. Guess what? You're still serving the people that you're selling. At the end of the day, we all want to serve, and we want to serve at a high level. But the only way that you can serve is by serving yourself first. I think that's very, very important. And the last thing that I want to unpack is this idea that the upper class and the lower class, the gap is getting bigger. Yeah. And that's one thing that I have on my mirror over there. It's on the other side of it. One of the first things that I ever wrote when I first started everything that I do was that America was built on a meritocracy, which was the strong survive. That's basically what a meritocracy is, right? But they're trying to strip the meritocracy away from us. They're trying to not reward the strong. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to make it look like no matter how hard you work, you're not going to get shit. So that what that does is that influences people to not work hard. Because like, if I work hard or if I don't, it doesn't fucking matter. I get the same thing. Mm-hmm. But we have to understand that America was built on a meritocracy. So guess what? America is going to break through with a meritocracy. We are going to break through. Our generation, Gen Z, talk as much shit as you want about it. We're going to break through because we believe in meritocracy, because we believe that the strong survive, because we believe that if we build the best version of ourselves and actually unite, no one expects our generation to unite. But if we do unite, it's fucking over. We're going to build more than any other generation's ever built, because guess what? We do have the most resources. We have all the technology. We have all the things that the previous generations didn't have. But you mentioned, united we stand, divided we fall. Yep. We're very divided. But it's done on purpose. Exactly. But if we, as me and you as individuals, that's all we can do, right? Me and you as individuals first. We work on the best version of ourselves. We believe what we believe in, and then we inspire in the process. But I guess I have no question, but I want you, if you have anything to build on, because we're getting into this.
Yeah. So, all right, but if we're going back into it, so it was kind of like what we were talking about earlier. No one's going to do the fucking work for you. Mm-hmm. And with the gap keep growing and growing and growing, it's crazy. Because if we look into the numbers, I don't want to get too statistics because I don't know them all by heart. Mm-hmm. But the average income for here in California is, I think, 40 to 60,000. Mm-hmm. The average house nowadays here in California is 400,000. So if you want to, so the old days people would say, oh, just buy a house and it'll appreciate over time. That shit don't work no more. Mm-hmm. You have to find something outside the box because that's the only way you're really going to make it. Mm-hmm. And even if your goals are not financial, you don't want, which I personally think it should be, because if you're financially well off, everyone around you is well off. Mm-hmm. And it leads off to just better lifestyle for everybody. Mm-hmm. But for you, as a man, I think we should always be at war. Like war with yourself, war with other people. That's why I fucking love competition. Because we go on Sundays and it's war with yourself, but it's also war with other people. Mm-hmm. And we talk about it all the time. You'll be right behind someone. I'm on your ass, bro. Pick your shit up. And you'll see that little spark in them. They're like, I gotta fucking go because he's gonna catch up to my ass and he's gonna talk shit the whole time. Yeah. And it's not talking shit from a place of hate. Yeah, no, we all love each other, but we were talking about it earlier. We're not calling you out, we're calling you up. So we just want people to work on themselves. And in turn, with that competition, you have to do it, because if I'm right next to you and you're slacking, you're walking, bro, start fucking jogging at least, because you're being a bitch. And I know that inner dialogue when they're walking, they know they're being a bitch. They're like, yeah, I can't do this. I can't do this. You need that self-belief. And for me, I always hear self-love. Self-love, oh, you should always love yourself no matter what you do. No, I think the real term of self-love is discipline. If you are disciplined and consistent every damn day, that's the true form of self-love. All the self-love, body positivity is bullshit, bro. You know what you got to do, so get your ass up and do that shit. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, so one thing you mentioned, self-love is discipline. I love that. I really, really like that. And I think the big reason for that is because discipline is the equivalent of self-respect. Because what discipline is doing the things that you say you're going to do. I mean, you can have all these different definitions for it, but I think they all revolve around that, right? Which is when you say you're going to do something, you do it, which is holding your word. And you mentioned that a couple times earlier, but it's also when you hold your word, you build that respect for yourself. And that's how you build that respect with others, right? It's funny because on Fabian's podcast, we started talking about that. We started talking about respect, how the only way you can have a true brotherhood is if you respect yourself and then you respect the other party. That's why there's so little brotherhoods in our generation today, because nobody respects themselves. And I talk about this a lot. It's like, if you don't respect yourself, you don't trust yourself. So then guess what? You don't trust the other party. So then when you have a relationship between two people who don't trust themselves, they don't trust each other, they don't actually build anything like that, right? It never works out. Never works out. But because you mentioned one thing beautiful. It was so beautiful. You mentioned how you're wise other people. And then I love how we got into this conversation talking about how like the gap between the upper class and the lower class is getting bigger. Because like I mentioned, that's actually, I'm going to show you after this. It's on the other side of my mirror, how I literally put the gap is getting bigger. And that, first of all, drives me a lot, because I don't want to end up, on the shit end of the stick of it. But it motivates me because my biggest fear is you or anybody listening or watching ending up on the shit end of the stick. And I can't even express, like, that's why my love for this country and this country's history has been so impactful in my life, because I didn't really understand it at first. And not understanding it kind of just, it made me a drifter. It made me a drifter. That's what it made me. But when I actually started to do the research, do the studying, and realize how great you could be, how great everybody listening could be if they took advantage of the opportunity that's given to them, it really drove me, because I see a lot of people in our generation not taking advantage of the opportunity, like you mentioned, not working their ass off, not building themselves. And that scares me, because I understand that those who don't work on themselves, those who don't take responsibility, those who don't take it seriously, they end up on the shit end of the stick. And that, I don't know what it is, bro. I don't know what it is, but that really scares me for other people. Maybe I shouldn't be caring about other people's lives so much, but I care about it so much in the sense that I want them to live a good life, right? Do you think you can kind of like, how do you feel about that idea?
No, we were talking about it earlier downstairs, and it's a thing of ownership. As a leader, there's no bad teams, there's just bad leaders. And you could have two different teams. One's not performing as well, and they have a shit leader. The other one's performing amazing, and they have a great leader. If you switch the leaders, the teams will also switch, because leadership is everything. And I get where you're coming from. You want to help everybody you can, and that should be everybody's goal. But at some point, not everyone is helpable. Some people are just stuck drifting. Like, if we're going out with the devil, they're stuck drifting, stuck on a shit path that sometimes they don't even realize it's shit, but...
It's not even sometimes. Every time they don't realize it.
You're right, yeah. Because if they did realize it, then they would have fucking made a change, yeah. So people are just stuck on a shit path, and you could lead a horse to water, but you can't force him to drink. So you could... Yeah, we could do all these damn podcasts. They could listen to all the damn motivational shit they want, but it's never going to work unless they're willing to actually sit down with themselves, realize where they're fucking up, and change. And change starts with action. Like, I don't care if it's today after hearing this podcast, you're a little pumped up or some shit. You have to start today. Because if the more you push it back, the more that, like we talked about, your word is going to mean less to you. And then you're just going to keep drifting. And you're going to keep fucking up. And you're never going to be on that right path that you need to be on.
Yeah, bro. I think I kind of want that to cap off our conversation, but I do want to give you the opportunity here that if you were to leave some piece of advice, because like I said, I think one thing that's beautiful about this podcast, and the real reason why I started it, is so that other people, I mean, the demographic is, 16 to 22 to 25 years old. That's really the demographic that I'm shooting for, that we're shooting to help, because that's what we can relate to, right? We can't really relate to someone who is fully established into their career or into whatever, right? So that's a good, and I think that that's the beautiful part about this podcast, is that people who are listening or watching are getting the perspective of someone else who is their age group, because I love listening to Goggins, to Wes, to Andy Frisella, to Alex Ramosi, to Andy, I listen, Ed Milet, bro, I listen to all of them. I read all their books and everything, but they're so much more ahead of the game than us. Now, of course, I use all their advice. I wouldn't be where I am without their advice. But I think getting this perspective, like, that's why I love having these conversations with you. Like, being able to do this is giving me a perspective of someone who's my age group, who's working his ass off. And I think that's the beautiful thing, that everyone watching or listening, they're getting the perspective from someone who's their age group, who's really trying to do it, who's really making that effort. Now, I want you to leave them off with, if you were to give someone, one piece of advice to take with them, to take ownership for their life, or to really start to make that positive change, what would it be? And it might be something that you've already said, and if you need to repeat it, then repeat it. But whatever it is, bro, one piece of advice that you think changed your life, that you think can change someone else's.
All right, main thing I would say is find a better sense of community. Community is a fucking amazing thing. For men, find a brotherhood. And I found a brotherhood with these fuckers, and I fucking love it. And so when you build yourself with a better community, like we were saying earlier, you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Let's say you don't even have a brotherhood right now. You don't have friends that you could have talks like this with. Go online, do podcasts, do interviews. Even if you're not there in person, you're getting all perspectives from people with much better experience than we have. Mm-hmm. And you learn so much more from other people's mistakes, especially more successful people. Mm-hmm. And if you surround yourself with nothing but that, you're going to end up being successful. Mm-hmm. But all it takes is, you need that action. You could listen, like I was saying, you could listen to all the shit you want, but if you don't start taking action, you're fucked. Mm-hmm. And in this life, you have to take action, because no one's going to do the work for you. Mm-hmm. And so once you realize that, it's going to be scary at first. You're going to have the fear of, well, this is my only life, so I got to make the most of it. Mm-hmm. And so once you have that fear, don't let it scare you to the point of where you want to give up, but let it make you grow, make you work harder, because if not, you're fucked. Mm-hmm. And it sucks to say, but we live one life, and if you fuck up this life, you're fucked. What are you gonna do? You can't protect, you can't provide for the people you love. Yep. And that's my main why is, if I fuck up right now, let's say I was to die tomorrow, then I want to at least leave the people I love with something that they can hold on to. And if it's that little bit of inspiration to keep going, then I'm all for that shit, because I'm just trying to inspire people, and in turn it helps out the whole world.
Thank you for that last message, bro. Thank you for that last message. Thank you for the whole conversation. This is almost an hour long, and I think it's an hour of some beautiful advice, beautiful conversation that I really think can benefit a lot of people. And I just want to say, from me to you, I'm very proud of you, bro. Very, very blessed to be able to watch your journey, to be a part of your journey. Because, dude, like I said, before we started working together, we had known each other, but we definitely were not. Yeah, never talked, right? Never talked. But it's insane how strong of a bond you can build with someone when it's 2 positive people. The bond that 2 positive people that can make with each other is truly special. And I've been able to experience that, with you the most, because a lot of people that I work with, I'm a little bit familiar with them. I've known them for a long, long time. But you were someone who I really was not, I knew, like I said, I knew you, didn't know you though, right? And throughout this journey, bro, being able to watch how much you've grown, how much accountability you've taken, how much you've grown in your business, but also how your purpose has truly, truly grown. I remember one of the things that you did mention on one of our initial calls that I'm able to look back on now is you did say that you want to inspire people, like you want to help other people. Yep. But it wasn't, when you said it, there wasn't really that spark in your voice. There wasn't really like that heart behind it. Because how could we expect there to be that heart when you're not living it yet? Yep. But now you've lived it. Now you can tell when you say it through this podcast that you really, really mean it. It really, really drives you. And bro, it's a straight blessing to see, to be a part of. I'm very excited to see what you do with them, these next couple months, couple years, bro. We got a lot of work to do. Yeah. But with that being said, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed this conversation. It was a little bit longer than my last two. I mean, these might just get longer and longer and longer. I'm not even sure.
But 2 hours next time.
Yeah, no, part two, we're going to go even longer. If you got some bit of value from this, please do share it with a friend, you know, with someone in our age group who needs to hear this. I think that we all need to hear this, but we appreciate if you share, if you like it. If you know Josh and you didn't know what he really knew, now you know. You know, if you didn't know, now you know. I'm damn proud of him. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. I'll see you guys for episode number 4. That was